5 stages, 1 suit of armor, 1 truth. To be alive is to be vulnerable. From the child who believes heroes never bleed, to the teen who performs pain, to the young adult who edits out weakness, to the mature adult forced open by life, to the elder who sees vulnerability as the soul of every meaningful story. This is the journey of openness across a lifetime. We try to become untouchable, but an untouchable life is also unreachable. Tonight, we ask why the parts of you that feel most exposed may be the very places where courage, love, and connection begin. Picture a young reader discovering their first fairy tale. The child believes in happy endings written in stone, in heroes who never bleed, in love stories without tragedy. They hold the book like a shield, convinced that if they learn all the right words, memorize all the perfect phrases, they can write themselves a life without pain. The child reads of brave knights and thinks bravery means never being afraid. They see princesses in towers and believe rescue always comes from the outside. In their innocent interpretation, vulnerability is weakness, a flaw in the story that good editing could fix. They close the book believing they can author their own invincibility. But adolescence arrives like a harsh literary critic, red pen in hand, marking up their carefully constructed narrative. The teenager discovers poetry, raw, bleeding verses that speak to something wounded in their chest. They devour confessional writers who spill their secrets across the page. Suddenly, they're writing their own tortured verses in bedroom notebooks, believing that pain makes them deep, that suffering equals authenticity. They mistake melodrama for vulnerability, confusing the performance of anguish with genuine openness. They share their overwrought metaphors like battle scars, wearing their emotional wounds as literary badges. But it's still armor, just dressed up in prettier language. They're performing vulnerability rather than living it, crafting their pain into a character they think the world wants to read. The young adult learns to edit ruthlessly. They discover that real writers show, don't tell. So they stop talking about their feelings altogether, believing that the strongest narratives are the ones that leave everything between the lines. They perfect the art of subtext, becoming masters of what's unsaid. In relationships, they communicate in footnotes and implications, never risking the full truth of their story. They date like careful editors, revealing only the chapters they've polished to perfection. This is strategic vulnerability, calculated, controlled, safe. They share their struggles only after they've been resolved, their fears only after they've been conquered. They mistake this for strength, not realizing they're still writing themselves as untouchable protagonists. The young adult believes they've found the perfect balance, honest enough to seem authentic, guarded enough to stay safe, but their stories feel hollow, lacking the heartbeat that makes literature live. Then life becomes the editor, and it's merciless. Career failures, relationship endings, losses that can't be metaphored away or revised into something prettier. The mature adult discovers that vulnerability isn't a choice. It's the human condition. They learn what Hemingway meant about being broken in certain places and how those breaks make us stronger there. Not stronger in spite of the breaking, but because of it. The cracks become the places where light gets in, where real connection finally becomes possible. In their relationships, with partners, children, friends, they begin to write new chapters with trembling hands. They share the rough drafts of their thoughts, the unedited versions of their fears. They discover that love isn't about finding someone who makes you feel safe. It's about finding someone worth being unsafe with. The mature adult learns to read others differently too, seeing past their carefully constructed narratives to the vulnerable truth beneath. They stop expecting everyone to be the hero of their own story and start appreciating the complex, flawed characters they really are. The elder has become both author and protagonist, critic and audience. They understand that every meaningful story requires genuine stakes, real loss, authentic fear, the possibility of true destruction. Without vulnerability, there's no story worth telling. They've learned the difference between confession and vulnerability, between oversharing and authentic openness. Vulnerability isn't about telling everyone everything. It's about being willing to be genuinely seen by those who matter. The elder knows that security is the death of story. Every great narrative requires the character to step into uncertainty, to risk everything for something greater. They've stopped trying to write themselves happy endings and started appreciating the beauty of unfinished sentences, of stories still being written. They've discovered what every great author knows, that the most powerful stories are the ones that make us feel less alone in our imperfection. That vulnerability isn't about being broken, it's about being courageously, beautifully human. The elder finally understands that vulnerability is not a flaw in the human story. It's the plot device that makes everything else possible. Here, by this fire that has witnessed countless stories told and retold, we remember that vulnerability is not the absence of strength, it's the source of it. Every flame that burns bright enough to warm others must first be willing to consume itself. The fire doesn't hide its hunger for oxygen, doesn't apologize for needing fuel to survive. It burns openly, completely, offering its light without guarantee of reciprocation. This is the deepest wisdom, that to live is to burn, to love is to risk being consumed, and to truly connect with others, we must be willing to let them see our fire. So write your story with honest hands. Let your chapters include the defeats alongside the victories, the questions alongside the answers. Share your rough drafts with those brave enough to show you theirs. Because the most beautiful literature has always been written by those willing to bleed a little ink onto the page. The fire burns bright tonight. What story will you dare to tell?